Boker Tov is Yevamos, Daf Samachay, Yevamos 65. We're going to start on the bottom, 64 base, 6 lines from the bottom. Where Amalei Rav Yosef Berei de Rava with Rava. So Rav Yosef, the son of Rava, asked a question to Rava about something he had heard from Rava's Rebbe, Rav Yosef. So what was the question that he asked? He said, by my name Rav Yosef, he said, I once asked the question of Rav Yosef, and the question I asked of Rav Yosef was, Halacha Rebbe. I once asked the question of Rav Yosef, and the question I asked was, is the law like Rebbe? Remember, we had said yesterday that Rebbe said that presumptive status is established in situations where the occurrence occurs twice, or is it like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, where it's established after 3 times? I said, how much does it take to establish presumptive status? But Amar Li, and he said to me when I asked him, the law is like Rebbe. And then I said, Halacha Rabbi Shimon Gamliel is a law like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel that it takes 3 times. And he said to me, yes, the law is like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. So now Rabbi Yosef turns to his father and he says, was Rabbi Yosef, your Rebbe, was he laughing at me? He's laughing at me. He says, the law is like Rebbe, the law is like Rashbag. Which one is it? Why is he laughing at me? Amar, so Rava says to his son, well, he's not laughing at you. Stamahi. There are different anonymous Mishnah. Whenever it's an anonymous Mishnah, we rule like the anonymous Mishnah. Upashalach. And he answers to you, Nisuin umalkios karebi. When it comes to Nisuin, when it comes to marriage, what do you mean by marriage? When it comes to marriage, i.e., if a woman is married to a man for 10 years and they have no children, so he divorces her, she's allowed to remarry to a second person. When she's remarried to the second person for 10 years, then the 3rd time she's only allowed to marry a person who already has children, because she's established that she can't have children. There we rule like Rebbe, that's 2 times. And when it comes to Malkios, when it comes to lashes, we also rule like Rebbe. We'll see what that means. When it comes to Vesasos, Ushor Muad, we'll see what those mean. There we will learn like Rosh Hashanah. Nisuin. What does it mean, the Nisuin? The case of the Nisuin. Hada Amr. This is what we were talking about until now. Where after 2 times where she was married, we say, you know what? You're not going to have children, so move on. And therefore only marry somebody who already has children. You're going to see that even though the Gemara says this, Gemara understands that even though she's been married twice, she's still going to be able to have children. The Gemara is going to raise that scenario in the next page. But basically the assumption is, the likelihood is that she's not going to have children if she's been married to 2 men for 20 years and neither one had children. So Malchus, what's the situation with Malchus? The Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah in Sanhedrin on 81b that if a person violated a penalty where you would have gotten kares, so since kares is from heaven, you get lashes. But let's say mishalaka v'shina, let's say a person does a severe penalty twice and he got the lashes twice, he did it again. Now he sinned the 3rd time. So the 3rd time, Bezdin konsin also a kippah. Bezdin sticks him in a kippah. Bezdin's like, we've had enough of you, basically scoffing at us with your terrible sins. They stick him in a kippah. A kippah is a prison, like a holding cell. And they feed him a diet of like barley until his stomach explodes. So that they don't wait for him to sin the 4th time. Once he's in the 3rd time, like Rebbe said, that's where he gets the lashes. Visasos. What's the visasos? The visasos refers to a veses. That's where a woman has established her period as coming on a specific date of the month. Today, we no longer believe that we have these visasos with the same certitude. But let's just say in the time of the Talmud, if a woman would have the veses, she'd always have her period on the 1st day of the month. Then after 3 times, we're going to rule like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel that after 3 times she's established it. It's now we learned in the Mishnah in Nida on 31b. Eina Isha Kovas, we're on top of 65a. Eina Isha Kovas al Veses, Ad Shetikva Ena Shalosh Pamim. A woman only establishes a Veses after 3 times. 3 times she's established a Veses. So that's like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. Vein Matarin Lamin Veses. And she only uproots her veses after 3 times. Why do we care if she has a veses? Rashi tells us 2 reasons why we might care. One is, let's say she forgot to check herself. She forgot to check herself. She forgot to do a bedika to see if she's tamei. And so then if it came to her time, we're going to say that the assumption is that she was tamei because she didn't check herself to prove that she wasn't. Alternatively, let's say she was dealing with, this is the first daf in Nida, let's say she was dealing with ritually pure foods, and then she checked herself, let's say one day, and then the next night she finds she's tamei. So if she has a veses, we could say that since it wasn't her veses, this is the only moment she became tamei. She wasn't tamei going back to the last time she had checked herself. Okay, then we say, and what's the fourth case where we say this time we roll like we're shooting a meal? We say vishor amud. A shor amud is an ox that gores. And the ox that gores, there is a foreseeability that this ox will be a goring ox. And so therefore, since there's a foreseeability that this ox will be a goring ox, its penalties are much more severe than what's called a shor tam, which is an ox which is just goring without foreseeability. So, and the level of guarding is much more stringent by a shor amud. So how many times does the ox have to gore in order for it to be considered a goring ox? We learned in the Mishnah, the ox is not considered a muad until they testify about it in court that it's gored 3 times. So now we go back to the discussion that we were having. Let's say this woman marries her first husband. She didn't have children from him. So then he divorces her, he gives her ksuba. There are 2 things. There's a divorce, that's a get. That's a document that severs the marriage. Then there's a ksuba. The ksuba is the marriage bond, that when a man marries the woman, he has to put up a bond that in the event of a divorce or a death, he has to pay her this amount of money. But if she is the reason why they have to get divorced, meaning to say, let's say she was adulterous, then she doesn't get the ksuba. So in this case, since we don't know for sure that she's the one who doesn't have the children, so therefore you can't blame the divorce on her, therefore he has to give her the ksuba when he gives her the divorce. However, Lashani, let's say she marries a second one, then again, the man has to divorce her and give her the get and give her the ksuba. But let's say Lishlishis, Botinase, to the third one, she's not allowed to marry. She can only marry somebody who already has children, because she's not able to have children. So we say only marry somebody who already has children. Let's say she goes in and she marries somebody who doesn't have children. He has to divorce her, and when he divorces her, he does not give her the ksuba because she's already demonstrated that she doesn't have the children. Now the Gemara asks the question, let's say she goes out and she marries the third husband. She wasn't supposed to marry him, but she married him, and now she doesn't have any children from him. Well, now now can her first 2 husbands say, well, look, you've been married now 3 times, and it wasn't just me you didn't have the children with, also this third husband you don't have children. Can they now say, give me back the ksuba that we paid you, right? Assuming she didn't spend it. They say, can you give us back the ksuba? Could they say to her, it's now clear that you're the cause of this. 3 husbands. Or maybe she could say to them, no. Now is where I got weak. Now is where I got weaker. But the first 2 times it was your fault and the first husband's fault. Now is the only time I got weak. Mara says, it's logical that she can make this claim. The logical means they don't have an argument other than say this is the logical. But it's logical they can make the claim that she's saying this isn't where I got weak. This reminds me, I don't really like this claim because it reminds me of when, right after we got married, when I got married, my wife did everything and she gave me one job, to order the benchers. She said, your job is to order the benchers. So I called this place in Brooklyn and I ordered the benchers. They were fine, except the problem was that they did the first 3 pages and then they kept repeating the first 3 pages. So you didn't have the full benching. So So there was like, most people took the benchers and went home. I guess they didn't, they left early, I don't know. So then I called up the guy and I said, we have all these benchers, they're not good. So he said to me, give me back those benchers and I'll return the money for those benchers, like 30 benchers. I'll give you $50, whatever. I said, no, I want you to give me for all the benchers, because probably these are the ones that are there. Probably they're all bad. He said, no, those are the only ones that are bad, because everybody else benched and they saw it was good and they took it. If it wasn't good, they would have left it. So that was that. So that's like this argument. She's saying, no, this is the only case I was weak. I mean, it's anyway. The Gemara says that that's the more logical argument. So I guess the Gemara would have agreed with him, and he would have won in court, I guess, based upon this. So then the Gemara asks another question. Let's say she married a fourth man. And from this fourth man, she has children. So for the first three, she didn't have children. Now she marries the fourth man and she has children. So now can she go and make a claim to the third husband and say, listen, you see, I am the one who's making children, so you're the one who's the problem. Can she now go back to the third husband and say, it's all your fault? Give me my ksuba. No, in this case, I'm reading law. We go over to her and we tell her, you're better off keeping quiet here. Your silence is better than your speech. Why? Because we could say to her, because if she would press the claim and say, listen, I need a ksuba from you because you see, I could have children. Well, then he could respond, he said, oh, if I would have known you could have had children, I never would have divorced you in the first place. I only divorced you because I didn't think you'd have children. So now my divorce to you is not valid because I divorced you under false pretenses. And so therefore your marriage to your fourth guy is no good, and your child is a mamzer. So don't make that claim. So Rav Papa says, wait. Okay, let's say she'll be quiet, but what's the difference? What she says, we're the court. We see what's going on. And we can't be quiet. Nimsa get batel. But now mamzerin, the get is nullified. And the offspring are mamzerin. El Amrinan, so we must say, Hashtu Dibriyasa. Just like we say for the third husband, she can claim, this is where I got weak. For the fourth husband, the guy could claim, no, you must have only, you went to IVF treatment, you got fertility treatment, you figured some stuff out. It's only by the fourth husband that you figured things out. So therefore, you just got healthy now. Who Amar Mina? Let's say the man claims it's her fault that she's not getting pregnant. She says it's his fault. If the things are between him and her, we believe her. We don't believe him. Time am I? She can say, listen, there's a problem with his seed. His seed is not potent. So therefore she knows. He has no idea of whether or not his seed is potent. So therefore we don't believe him, we believe her. Amar Iyu, let's see, he goes out and claims, guess what? Okay, you're not having children. Before I divorce you and give you the ksuba, I'm gonna go marry a second wife and I'll see. I'll see if I'm able to have children. If he does this, right away he has to divorce her and give her a ksuba. Whoever marries a second wife has to divorce his first wife and give her a ksuba. Rabba Amar, no say Adam Kama Nashim al Ishto. Rabba says no, a man can take multiple wives, even if his wife objects. As long as he can support her. As long as he can support them. So, Dr. Gemara, who Amar, let's say we're on the top of 65b. Let's say he claims he to bego eser. He says you had a miscarriage within 10 years. What's the scenario here? The scenario here is Rashi tells us the court comes to them and says you've been married 10 years, time to get divorced, no kids. He says no, the 10-year clock hasn't started because it's not 10 years because she had a miscarriage. And we learned that if she has a miscarriage, we start the clock over again. But she says, "Vi Amar Loa, please." She says, "No, that's not true. I never miscarried." Amar Rabbi Yami, Aftazu Hina Menes. She's the one who's believed here. Why? Because if it's really the case that she miscarried, she never would claim she's sterile. Nobody wants to claim they're sterile. So it must be that she really did not miscarry, because if she miscarried, she wouldn't claim she was sterile. Let's say let's say she miscarried 3 times. Now she's established as a miscarrier, and then he has to divorce her and give her the ksuba, because we still say even though she's miscarrying, it might have been his fault. Maybe the seed was messed up, and that's why he made it a child that needs to be miscarried. Who Amar Ipila Trey? Let's say he claims she miscarried twice, and so therefore he doesn't have to divorce her. Me, Amra, she said, "No, I miscarried 3 times. You need to divorce me and give me my ksuba." Amar B'Yitzchak ben Elazar, Uvda Ave Be Midrasha. This happened once in the base medrash. Amru Hi Mehemda. She's believed. Demisa because if it's the case that she wasn't miscarrying, she's not going to establish herself as a miscarrier. Nobody wants to be known as a person who miscarries. So now we come to the Mishnah on Samachayim Beis. A man is commanded to be fruitful and multiply. A man is commanded to have children of a low Aisha, but not a woman. Rabbi Yochanan broke Omer. I mean, this to me is like, so the man is commanded, but the man is, how is he supposed to do it? If the woman's not commanded to do it, he obviously needs a woman to do it. Today, nowadays, a woman can have children without a man, but a man still needs a woman. I was at a wedding recently. And there was a man there, and he is the father of 113 children currently, and he has 17 more who are pregnant at this time. Yeah, I'll tell you more about him after the recording stopped. He whenever there's a person who needs his seed, he gives it for free through like in vitro or whatever. And he's now father. I went to camp with him. I saw him at the wedding. 113 children. Anyway, the man is commanded about period. The man is commanded to have children, but not the woman. So he's for sure fulfilled the mitzvah by this point. Rabbi Yochanan Broka says, Al Shneim Hu Omer, for both of them, he says, about both of them, it says, Vayivarach Osam Elokim, Vayomer Lahem Elokim, Peru Ravu. Rabbi Yochanan Broka says both of them are commanded, because it says that Peru Ravu, be fruitful and multiply. So it's a dispute. The Tanna Kama says only one of them is commanded, and the Rabbi Yochanan Broka says both of them are commanded. How do we know this idea that only a man is commanded in the midst of having children? It's based on a verse. Fill the world and dominate it. Who's commanded to dominate the world? Ish darkolach bosh. A man is commanded to dominate the world. Ve'ein isha, but a woman is not commanded to dominate the world. The man is commanded to dominate the world, and a man's way is to dominate, but a woman is not. Her way is not to dominate. Other Abed with Mars is just the opposite. V'chivshua, we read it as v'chivshua, which is in the plural. Tarti mashman implies two. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak v'chivshaksev. It's written without the vav, so meaning it's singular. Rav Yosef says a different verse. Rav Yosef Amar Me'acha. Rav Yosef says a different verse. Ani kel shakai parei revei. God says to Jacob, "I am your God. Be fruitful and multiply." In the singular. Lo kamer puravu. It doesn't say in the plural. So now that we said the statement that Rabbi Elazar said in the name of Rabbi Elazar and the name of Rabbi Shimon, we cite other teachings that he said. He says, "Kashem shemitzu ba'al adam lomar davar nishma." Just like a person is supposed to say rebuke, if you think the rebuke will be heard, kach mitzvah adam shalom lomar davar she'eino nishma. So too, it's a mitzvah not to say something that won't be heard. Just like it's a mitzvah to say something that will be heard, if you know that people are not going to listen to you, it's a mitzvah not to say it. Rabbi Abba Amar Chova. Rabbi Abba says it's obligatory to not say something if you know it's not going to be heard. As it says, Al tochach leitz, don't rebuke a mocker, penyasna eka, because it's just going to hate you. Rebuke a wise man, and he's going to love you. I'm Rabbi Lam Mishum Rabbi Lazar Bar Shimon. Same Rabbi Mutar Lo Adam Lashanos B'Tvar Shalom. A person is allowed to change the truth, change the shanos, to say things differently. Doesn't mean to outright lie. Say things differently. And Magen Avram says this is only about the past, not about the future. Like, there's change things about the past for the sake of peace. As it says that after Jacob died, Joseph's brothers came to him and they said, Avicha tzivaon, and your father commanded us, saying, Kotomru Yosef, Anasana, your father told us that we should go to you and say, forgive us for selling you. So that their father never said that, so they were changing the truth. And we Nasan Omer mitzvah, he says it's a mitzvah to change the truth. How do we know this? Because God told Samuel to lie, because God told Samuel to go and anoint David while Saul was still the king. Shmuel said, how can I go? Saul will hear this and kill me. So God told him, take some food and tell him you're going to bring a sacrifice. Basically, lie. The Beit Rabbi Shmuel Tana, God Shalom, so great is peace. Shafa Kadosh Baruch Hu Shinabo. God himself changed the truth. The Mikara Ksiv, at first it says that when Sarah heard she was going to have a child, she said, how can I have a child? Adonisa came. My husband is too old to have children. Well, but so at the end, God said to Abraham, she said, Aniza Kanti. She said, I've grown old. So that's the difference. That God changed it to say, I've grown old. Okay, what's the next? So the Gemara says, remember the Tanakama said, man is obligated to have children. Rabbi Yochanan Broka said, both man and women are obligated. Idma Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Shua Levi. We learned Chad Amar Rabbi Yochanan Broka, Chad Amar Eno Rabbi Yochanan Broka. Is the law like Rabbi Yochanan Broka that both man and women are obligated? To Stein to Rabbi Yochanan Damar Eno. Let's conclude. Rabbi Yochanan is one who says the law is not like Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka, because one time the Yasef Rabbi Avo v'Ka'amar Mishmei Rabbi Yochanan. One time Rabbi Avo was sitting. And one time Rabbi Yochanan was sitting, and in front of the one time Rabbi Avo was sitting, and he said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Now the law is like Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Ami Ravasi, and Rabbi Ami Ravasi turned their faces to the other side. And some say because they didn't want to argue with him, so they turned their faces back. One time Rabbi Chibar Abba was said. Rabbi Chibar Abba is the one who said the law is like Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says the law is like Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka. And Rabbi Ami Ravasi turned their faces. So Amar Papa B'Shalom Amda Rabbi Avo. It makes sense according to the version that Rabbi Avo is the one who said it. Mishim Kavod Pei Kazer, because Rabbi Avo, he was beloved in the house of the Caesar. Whenever he used to come out, the women used to sing for him. Women of Caesar's house. So you don't want to mess up. You don't want to mess with the rabbi who's close with Caesar. You don't want to mess with Putin's rabbi, because basically Putin's coming for you next. So they didn't want to mess with Rabbi Avo. So it makes sense to say that Rabbi Avo was the one who said it, and for this reason, they didn't argue with him. According to the version that Rabbi Chibar Abba said it, why didn't they object? And say Rabbi Yochanan never said it. So my hobby, how do we rule? Who's obligated in the mitzvah of Puravu? There was once an incident with Rabbi Yochanan, the Kenishta de Kezari, in the base Knesset in the synagogue of Caesarea, but Amar Yotzi v'yiting Suba. He said, you have to divorce her and give her a ksuba. Meaning, the way Rashi explains it is, there was a woman who said, my husband needs to divorce me and give me my ksuba because I want to have children with somebody else, and we don't have children together. So, and if you say she's not commanded to have children, then ksuba ma'avidita, then she doesn't have a right to this divorce, and therefore he doesn't have to give her the ksuba. Mar says, no, it's possible she had another claim. Maybe her claim wasn't, I want to have children because of the mitzvah of Puravu. Maybe she had another claim. Maybe she had a different claim. What could be her other claim? Well, I'll tell you what her other claim could be. The Gemara is about to tell us what her other claim could be. What could be her other claim? We'll look at the Gemara. The Gemara tells us, so once a woman came to Rabbi Ami, Amrullah, she said to him, Ksuba. She said, I want my ksuba. I want to be divorced so I can have children, and he owes me a ksuba. Amrullah, zeal. So Rabbi Ami said to her, go. You don't get your ksuba. You're not commanded in the mitzvah of Puravu. Amrullah, she said, yes, I am. I'm not commanding the mitzvah puravu, but I still want a child because misibu dila maite haviala. Meaning to say, Rashi says, what's masibu dila? Rashi says, in her old age, what's going to be about her? Dahach itzasa, what's going to be about this woman in her old age who's speaking about herself in the third person? Who's going to take care of me? Amar, so Rabbi Ami said, oh, all right, now we force him to divorce her because she's entitled. She wants a child to take care of her. That's her long-term care policy. There was another woman who came in front of Rav Nachman. Amar La, he said to her, go, you don't get the ksuba. You weren't commanded the mitzvah puravu. Amar La, she said to him, well, this is a very powerful phrase. She says, does this woman not need chutra liyada? She doesn't need somebody to lean on, a stick for her hand. Umaral klura, doesn't she need a shovel for her grave? Who's going to bury me? Amar kiyav v'adei kafim. He says, you know what? You're right. We force the man to divorce you so you can have a child with somebody else. Yehuda and Chizkiah were twins. One of them finished a pregnancy after 9 months. One of them was ready to go out of the womb after 7 months. Yehudis the Beisayo de Rebbe Chia. So the wife of Rebbe Chia, we already heard about the wife of Rebbe Chia. She used to give him a hard time when he said, remember he said he bought her a handkerchief because she said she raises his children and keeps him from sinning. Well, guess what? She didn't have such an easy life. She had a lot of pain from giving birth. So she didn't want to be pregnant anymore. She didn't want to carry these twins. So she carried them, but she didn't want to do it in the future. Shanai Mana, she changed her clothing. She came to Rebbe Chia. So Rebbe Chia was sitting in the yeshiva, he was sitting in the bezdin. She dressed up like somebody else, and she came to see him, and Amra, and she said to him, "Is this a mifakta period of Rebbe?" She said, "Is a woman commanded to have children?" He said, "Nope." Amra lo. He said, "No, yeah, a woman's not commanded to have children." Well, she said, "Well, in that case," she laughed. Ishtiya samada karta. She drank a potion to make her sterile, so she wouldn't have children anymore. But Sophie Goy Milsa, then Rebbe Chia found out that he gave this ruling to his wife, and his wife was the one who drank the potion. Amar La, he said to his wife, Iku yaladatuli chada cross achrisa. I wish you had become pregnant for me one more time with another full belly of twins. The Amar Mar, because it was taught, when it says the Amar Mar, there's nobody named Mar. It's like a statement, like the Amar Mar means it was teaching. Mar comes from Amar. Amar Mar, Yehuda v'Chazkiah Achi. Yehuda and Chazkiah are brothers. Pazi v'Tavi Achrosa. Pazi and Tavi were sisters, meaning to say that they were great scholars, came from Pazi and Tavi. So we see from here, she didn't have any more children because she took this sterile potion. So the Gemara says, women are not commanded in the mitzvah of puravu. There was once a woman who was half slave, half free. We forced her master to free her, so she become all free. Because if she's half slave, half free, she can't marry anybody. Who's she going to marry? She can't marry the Jew, and she can't marry the Canaanite. So he forced her master to free her. So we see from here, why are we forcing her to get married? So she could have children. So doesn't that prove that women are commanded the mitzvah puravu? The Gemara says, no, minag hefker naguba. No, that's not what's going on. What's going on, because she was half slave and half free, she couldn't marry anybody. And so therefore she was mifakeres atzma. She was treating herself like hefker. She was sinning with men. So therefore we forced her master to free her so she can get married properly and she wouldn't sin with anybody. So we shall return to this chapter. So obviously there's a lot of powerful stories here that need to be read very carefully. And